gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tessie, I'm just gonna jump right into it. The conversation. We're already 15 minutes behind through no fault of ours. But what I want you to do is kind of just launch straight into it. Um, a brief introduction, about yourself, and then I'm gonna hit you with all the questions back to back. So over to you, Tessie.
Okay, hi, hello everyone. My name is Tessy, Tessy, not Tessie. As many
Mm,
people have decided to spell my name in several ways, I've been called Tessa,
mhm,
I've been called Tessie, I've been called Jessie, but my name is Tessie. And I remember someone saying that, oh, why did you change your name from Teresa? I'm like, because my primary school teacher murdered my name. And so I got home
really?
one of those days in primary school. Yes, he had Yoruba accent. So he kept saying Teresa, Teresa. And it felt weird because that's not my name. So I told my
Yeah.
parents that, I didn't want that. I wanted to
Mhm,
change my name. My dad said, I cried really hard, apparently. So my dad said, you know what name? He was like, the short form is fine. Tessie is okay. And then that's how I started using Tessie from my secondary school, henceforth and all of that. So my primary school backwards has Teresa, but then Tessie is what
mm,
I've used. So, yeah, so Tessie is my name. I'm a mental health therapist. I I love to see myself as uh, this is not a profession for me. I specialize in marriage and family counseling, relationship,
mm,
if you may. That's like my niche. But I'm also a re-engineering, a mind re-engineering coach. And
mm,
so for that is of course the name as it implies, I love to re-engineer people's minds because I believe
mm,
that that's the best way to live your best life, which is something that I stand by under my organization called Love and Light. We believe
mm,
that if every person has deserves the opportunity to live their best life, you shouldn't live
yeah.
anything less than that. And that's what I do. So this is not a job for me. So if I were to introduce myself, ideally, I would say a producer and a TV presenter of over a decade.
Wow.
I'm also an event compare. I've done that for over a decade as well. And so mental health is also something I've done. I have over 500 hours of practice. For those that are in the medical field or in the mental health field, mostly we don't tell ourselves we have done 10 years. You're judged by the number of hours you've clocked in your practice, and that's what
Mm.
I've done. So yeah, that's just me in a nutshell. I'm a lot. I'm a lot. So let's leave it like this. But if you want to know anything, just ask me. I would answer the question. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous. We share something in common, which is that change of name. My given name is Ngohide, right? And people mutilated that name in primary school. So I remember telling a friend that my
Oh,
middle name is Ruby and Ann as one word. My mother gave it to me. And I
yeah.
said I'm going to use Ruby Ann when I go to secondary school, and that's what I used. But then after people still used to spoil it. So when I left secondary school and I was heading to university, I started using Ruby, and then when I was moving into a full-time artist, I remember a mentor saying, Ruby is not enough, add Ruby Gyang, and that's how the name. So those have been the progression
Oh,
of my name over
wow.
time. So hearing you say that was really interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna jump right into it, Tessie, right? When people hear the term high functioning depression, it sounds almost
Mm.
contradictory. Clinically, how would you describe it in a way that someone outside the field can actually understand what is going on? That's A. And B, and in your experience, where do clinicians themselves miss it? When someone is still performing, still producing, still showing up, what gets overlooked?
Mm. Mm. Okay, so I'll just say that high functioning depression is depression on steroids.
Hmm.
To put it in the barest, yeah, that's what it is. And of course, usually it doesn't make sense because when you're on steroids, you're literally overdoing, like you're
Hmm.
you're just going. But then
Mm-hmm.
depression is depressed, you're down. So how are you
Yeah,
down and still on steroids? That's exactly what high
exactly.
functioning depression is. Yes, so you are down, but you are not aware. You're not aware that you're down, and you're still moving on, thinking that everything is okay.
Wow.
That's the simplest way to put it. Is being depressed but still thinking that everything is fine, everything is okay. Why?
Mm,
Because you are moving on. There's just that progression. Just keep going every day. Oh, this happens, and so you're fine. So for us as therapists, when we see high functioning depression, in fact, a lot of times we don't get people coming in with high functioning depression. People don't clock in
okay.
and say, I think I have high functioning depression, or I think they usually
Yeah.
would just come and say, I think I'm depressed. And 95% of the people that would walk into my space and say, I want to talk to a therapist, I think I'm depressed, are actually dealing with maybe just clinical depression, or, day
Okay.
to day depression, right? Because
Okay.
some people think they are clinically depressed, but there's depression that is different from clinical depression. The
Okay.
regular
What is that?
depression that happens from day-to-day life depression is different from what the um a psychiatrist or maybe even a doctor would diagnose you with. So regular
Okay.
depression could be, I won't call it regular, but I'm just trying to make it as simple as
Yeah.
possible. Is
Yeah.
when is depression that comes from life changes or life situations
Mm,
that hit you, consequences
mm,
of life. You get
mm,
heartbroken, something happens to
mm,
you from home, you lose
mhm.
someone. The depression that comes from that is just, life circumstance kind of depression. It's
Yes.
different from
Yes.
clinical depression. Clinical depression is technically when the person has gotten to a point where the chemicals in their brain have changed the way they behave, and that depression is now affecting
Wow.
their day-to-day life. So you can have
Okay.
the consequence of regular depression, if I put it that way. And you can
Uh-huh.
still go around your day. You can still go to work. You can still do
Yes.
stuff. But you still have those down moments. But when it's now clinical
Okay.
depression, it affects your day to day
Mhm.
life. You are,
Ah.
you can't do anything. You are just absolutely down. And then you now
Yes.
have high functioning depression,
Uh-huh.
which you
Okay.
don't even know is happening.
Yes, because the picture a lot of people have of depression is the clinical depression, which is your shutdown. You really can't do much. But with high functioning,
Yeah.
I'm a mother. I'm still taking care of my family, my children. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a man. I'm going to work. I'm paying my bills. I'm a pastor. I'm in church. I'm doing my thing. I'm a church worker.
Mm.
Maybe I'm in the choir and I'm actively leading worship, and all of that. So how can I be depressed? Really, I'm not depressed
Mm.
based on that definition, right?
Yes. Yes.
That
Yes.
makes so much
And
sense. I
yes, it
Please
does.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say that, that's why it is harder. Like I was saying, I don't find people coming in like that. It is after a few sessions of conversation that you now start to find
Yeah.
out that, oh, this person is actually dealing with this thing and they don't even know because they have their lives all planned out. So you could really be doing a lot. You could be giving a lot, especially if you're a person that has lots of demands on them, either
Yes.
placed by
Yes.
others or placed by yourself.
Hmm.
If you're someone who is constantly in the forefront, people rely on you a lot, people want you to do stuff a lot, or you're putting yourself in front. There's this new fight that we all have now to stay relevant. We are relevant,
Yes.
create
Yes.
impact, make impact. Some of those things are words that we hide behind when we are putting
Wow.
pressure on ourselves. There's no sleep for the people with this, how they put that
Yes.
thing now, it says sleep is for the weak. All
Wow.
of those things we say that sounds fancy and we all laugh about it. That's
Yeah.
some of the things that people with high depression are doing.
Wow. That makes so much. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So there's the external pressure put on you by others, and there's even the one that you carry on your head.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So thank you for that awesome description, and thank you for how you really simplified it. Um, I want to bring in another layer, right? Which is a lot of people dealing with this are also faith driven. Some are in church environments, some are spiritual
Mm,
leaders, some are people who
mm,
rely heavily on belief systems to stay grounded. So, from your
mm,
perspective, how does faith shape the experience of high functioning depression? Does it help people hold on, or does it sometimes make it harder to see what is actually happening internally? And in those environments, when does faith become support and when does it become pressure? that keeps people silent. Maybe let me rephrase it and say, when I say how does faith, not like how does people's view of faith, let me phrase it that way, you
Mm.
know, shape the experience of high functioning depression, and how can their view maybe make it harder to see what's actually happening internally.
Mm. So the thing with that is that as Christians, for example, I'll use that.
Yes,
We are a lot of us who love the Lord deeply from our hearts are given to
yes,
working in the vineyard. and
yes.
and then so I'm not even going to go from pastors. I'm going to go from, let's just say you're a worker in church, dedicated,
Mm-hmm,
giving,
mm-hmm,
doing your best because you believe that the Lord's work must be done, and you're
yes.
there for it. However, in trying to dispense your duties, you can get
Mm-hmm.
lost in the activity, and you are just a church worker but you are not a God worker. And that's when the
Oh,
high functioning depression comes in.
hold on, hold on,
So
hold
you're
on. Please
working.
define that church worker and God worker. Hold on. Please define that.
Okay, so church worker is you dispense your duties as whatever role you've been given in church. And so
Yes.
you're either, let's say you're an usher, for example. So you're working in church, you're there for every church service, especially for
Mm-hmm,
duties that make you active. You're either standing, you're not sitting and listening, you're moving around. So you're doing stuff in church, you're consistently helping people come in. But when you're a
mm-hmm,
God worker, you are not just, you are conscious of the reason you are in that space. You're able to take out time either after or before to fill yourself up with the same thing that the people that you're bringing in are getting, you're also getting it. So a lot of
mm-hmm,
times, how you know people who are church workers is that they start to get very tired and start to get very
mm-hmm.
angry at things said to them. So
Mm,
someone says something to you, it's like, me, I've been here for 10 years, I've been serving
mm.
here for 10 years. You can't bypass
Wow.
me and do this. I'm a worker. They say, oh, you can't
Mm-hmm.
get this because I'm your. So you always bring that as it's like an ID card that you always show
Wow.
for. You always
Okay.
bring that forth because for you, you have put your all into it, right? But you're feeling
Okay.
down. In some cases, you're feeling very down. You are depressed. So sometimes that's the sign. You may not know, but you're always there. In fact, you even increase your workload. So
Wow.
for you, it's the difference as a high when you have high functioning depression. What it does for us who are faith people is that it could
Mm-hmm.
destroy you because you could be blinded and start looking for scriptures and saying that this happened and the disciples did this, even though they were this, even though they were that. You start looking for scriptures to support what you're doing, to support
Wow.
your,
Wow.
high
Wow.
functioning depression, so that you can stay relevant. Because the moment you come to the reality or the realization that, hey, I don't think that my life in connection with God is working or is intact, you start to break down. You
Yeah.
can't afford to break down because who is going to fix that chair? Who is going to stand at the door at
Wow.
7 a.m.? I don't want them to call
Wow.
me. I want to win the award for the year. So all of those things get into your head and you're like, no, 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 no. I will give my all. So you know something is wrong, but you just
Mm-hmm.
keep going. But on the flip side, it can become a support
Mm-hmm.
system because you're able to
Okay.
say, you know what, I think that I need to take a break. I'll give you a short
Mm-hmm.
example. No, I won't take so much time. I was asked to do something in my former church some time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the women were doing some stuff, and I've always been a standout person. I'm always the
Mm.
red color where the black or white is. So I'm used to that. And so I was asked to do stuff and I declined. I said I was not going to do it. And this is a role that most women in church want to do. I said, I'm not going to do
Mm-hmm.
it. And they're like, how can you reject? Pastor said you should. I said, no, I won't do it because I won't give my best. I won't do it because I'm already
Mm.
occupied. I am tired. I'm burnt
Mm-hmm.
out. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when
Wow.
over 7, 8 years ago. I said I won't going to do
Mm-hmm.
it. And the word went around that I'm rebellious, that I don't want to take, that I'm not serious. In fact, they even told some other people not to listen to me because I was
Wow.
not teaching the word of God. I was not dedicated. That's the word. I wasn't dedicated enough to God,
Wow.
to God's word. So you see how it can either support or it can push
Wow.
you away. So that's
Okay.
the flip side of it. You need to know when to
Wow.
call it quits, actually.
Wow. Wow. That is just you summarize it. And I love what you said about being honest enough to say, you know what, I'm tired, I'm stressed out. I don't have it in me to give, and I need some time off, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a sin. It doesn't mean you don't love the Lord, you know, but it just means that if you need time off, you need time off, right? So,
Yeah.
especially in the African and diaspora spaces, there's a strong expectation around strength, endurance, and not breaking down. How does culture shape the way functioning depression is expressed or hidden? That's A. And then B, what are some of the cultural beliefs that make people delay asking for help even when the signs are there?
Hmm. So now only me, my mama born. One, if I don't do it, who will do it? We gas hustle. These are some of the popular
Mm,
terms that people just
wow.
use, but
Wow.
it's all tied to it's a culture here. So in Nigeria, for example, we have the culture of the what's that word now? There's something my husband calls it. I think it's called black tax. So
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
are yeah, black tax. So ah as I'm traveling to this abroad like this now, as a Nigerian, you cannot travel abroad. And this is what people think in their head. And you will leave your people behind. You guys they send money come back house. Because
Yeah,
go abroad, make you leave you have to,
yeah.
it's like they call you, it's like a birthright, like you must send money
Mm-hmm,
down. But then
mm-hmm.
the real reason, the funny thing is the pressure doesn't even come from the family members, because that's where culture is embedded in, is the family system. It doesn't come from
Mm-hmm.
the family members directly. It is like something you wear when you leave.
Wow.
So you're leaving already burdened that you're going to go to work for people, not for yourself.
Wow.
We gather money, say you're going with that. And that's the funny thing, because people think that it's the family members that pressure them. No, they pressure themselves. Why? They don't want to look ungrateful. They don't want to
Yeah,
look like they have left everyone. So in our culture as
yeah.
Nigerians, not just because Nigeria or Africa is a patriarchal society as it is,
Mm-hmm,
but then the
mm-hmm.
fact that first of all, the man is, in fact, that's, I don't want to talk about that part. Let me keep it until we get there. Is that the
Okay.
man, of course, is the one that is the head of the home and must provide. The firstborn
Yeah,
must provide. These things are
yes.
cultural, they are, how do I put them? They are cultural pins. They are
Yeah.
things that have slowly just entered. So our culture
Mm-hmm,
doesn't even allow us be ourselves. You are not yourself. If you go school, they go school to please your mama and your papa. If you
mm-hmm,
if you decide that you want to study a course, you go and study that course because your parents, it will make your parents happy, not you.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to be happy.
Mm,
You're doing this for your parents. They've suffered for you. Do you know how many wrapper your mother sold? Do you know what your father did?
mm,
Forgetting that it is the
mm.
primary responsibility of the parents to cater to the child until that child is old enough to cater for himself. It is
That's true.
not, beg me. It's not, I'm not begging you to send me to school. You gave birth to me, and so you're taking that responsibility. And so that's how
Mm-hmm.
culture affects the way we see this thing. And so because of that, you
Wow.
can't speak up. You can't speak up. You can't say
Mm,
anything. You are afraid to. Why? Because 1,001 people will tell you that you are wrong. So you
mm-hmm,
keep
mm-hmm.
quiet and then you die inside and you say, na so
Yeah.
it be, na man I be, na so I go choose, this is how I
Wow.
prove this is how I validate myself in this family. So people
Yeah.
go into the streets because they can't afford, their mothers have told them that they are good for nothing, that even their younger sister is better. He say, na so man they
Wow.
do, or they say, na so firstborn they do. These are some of the words that come out of our mouth easily because the culture has said that it is okay to do that. Typical example, um,
Mm-hmm.
what they call these women not just in Igbo lands but in villages, umuada. So you're going to get married, and
Mm-hmm.
the umuada will decide the things you will give them. I don't know if you've heard about it, Ruby.
Mm-mm.
There's this
Please
like
break
a
it
group
down.
of women. Sorry.
No, I say break it down for us.
Yeah, so there are this set of women. They are not just in Igbo land, but they are in other villages as well. They are a group of women. They are a very strong group of women who, when
Okay.
you're about to get married or you are going to do a traditional wedding or burial, they decide what happens there. They have
Okay.
demands, and you must give them
Yes.
those demands. They may have
Yes.
no thing, but you must give them those demands no matter how high. If you don't fulfill those demands, you can't do anything you want to do. So here is somebody trying to manage himself and get married, and the mother decided that because
Yeah.
the daughter came from the village and she went to university, the husband must bring this. He must start. There's one they told the man to tar the road, oh, from the girl's house to the express, that he has to tar the road. Then he will send 20 youths to school. Then he will do this one and do all of that one just
What?
because he's coming to marry for the man did it though.
What?
He did it. But
Wow.
what happened afterwards was what nobody expected. He took his wife, and for over 20 years, he has refused to let her go back home, and he has refused to let any family member see her or know where she is. He said, since you made me
Wow.
pay for her, she's now mine.
It's
So, I
my
mean, there's no
property.
need for you to
Mhm.
ask for her. Exactly. So
Wow.
that's how deep this can be when it comes to our culture. I don't know if I
Yeah.
answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this extreme pressure based on culture, this cultural pressure can now trigger people into high functioning depression. Is that a fallout? Can you say that's a consequence of that pressure, that cultural pressure
I
and
didn't hear that.
expectation?
The cultural
Okay,
pressure,
I
yes,
said
cultural pressure, yes.
so a consequence of that can now become the high functioning depression because you're constantly
Oh, yes, yes,
bombarded with all
absolutely.
of that.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, because we don't
Okay.
all have the same capacity. We don't have the same
Mm.
capacity. But culture doesn't let you see that. Culture doesn't let you see that. You must
Wow.
bring what you must bring. You must
Wow.
bring what you must bring. That's it.
Wow.
You
Wow.
have to bring what you must
Okay.
bring. Nothing else.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. Okay, so I want to bring in the neuroscience behind it. This is my favorite part. Oh, so on a new neurological level, something is happening
Yeah.
beneath the surface that allows someone to keep functioning while internally depleted. I remember earlier I talked about chemicals in the brain and how it affects people, right? So now what I want
Yeah.
to know is what is actually happening in the brain in high functioning depression? And then, very importantly, how does the brain manage to keep output going while emotional regulation and internal systems are under strain?
Okay. So neuro I love neuroscience, by the way. I'm in love with it because
Mm.
there are a lot of things that it teaches you that you're not even aware of. Now, one of those
Mm-hmm.
things is that your brain is built to keep you alive. You see that organ called your brain. The sole
Mm-hmm.
purpose of your brain is to keep you alive. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what you are doing, the other things happening in the body. The brain can
Mm-hmm.
literally shut down every organ in the body to keep it alive, if that's what's
Wow.
going to happen. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with high functioning depression, because you have what we call neural pathways are, I want you to imagine them as, I'm going to break it down as simple as I can. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine you're on a vast land, and then trees are growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you planted, let's say you pour different seeds randomly all around a particular grassland with good soil, and
Mm-hmm.
then it rains, right? Now, I want you to see that rain as emotions and information. But
Okay.
when it stops raining, you obviously now begin to have dry season. So you need to
Yes.
water it. But because you are unable to water all the trees at the same time, or let's say you don't have
Mm-hmm.
so much water, right? You now start to
Mm-hmm.
water the trees that are of interest to you. So you
Mm.
take a can of water, you're watering the trees that are of interest to you. What it means is that the trees you water will flourish, the ones you don't will
Yeah.
deplete.
Yeah.
And the ones that you, of course, because they are trees, some trees grow wide and just cover everywhere. They
Mm-hmm.
can even go all the way to the ground. They just cover, and they can overshadow other trees as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you do that, you have gotten to a point where you have strong trees. So that's how the neural pathway works in your brain. Every time you say something to support something that leads to high functioning depression, for example, I have to do it, I don't
Yes.
have a choice, you're telling
Mm-hmm.
your brain your story, and then this brain has information because your mind can't be seen, but your brain can be seen, and your brain works with
Mm-hmm.
information. So what it does is that
Mm.
it takes this information and it adds emotions to it, because when you're saying this thing, you're saying it in a deep, in a sometimes in a broken way. You're saying it from
Yeah.
very deep emotional standpoint. So you're hurt while you're saying it. So at that point, your emotions
Mhm.
are heightened. And your emotions is what makes those information glue.
I
So as you
see.
take those words and you use the emotions and you say,
Oh, hello, Tessie.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, it went up for a while.
can you hear me?
Yeah, you said, yeah, when you say things like I got hustle with feeling, you know, I can't rest, or I will rest when I'm dead.
Yeah, so when you say things with emotion, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So your brain takes that information. Why does it take it serious? Because you added an emotion was added to it. So that's how we
Wow.
register that this means a lot. So it keeps nourishing that pathway. And when you have a strong tree, when breeze blow, which tree go fall? The tree
The
that is
weak
not
ones.
strong enough. That's how the neural pathways are exactly. So when you keep reinforming that thought, when you keep reinforming that thought, your brain doesn't know what is true and what's not true. It only
Mm-hmm.
understands the information that you're giving it. So the more you say those words, the more you put yourself in those situations. So for example, you go to a party and somehow they always leave you behind. The food never gets
Mm-hmm.
to you. And then
Mm-hmm.
you start saying that why is it that every time I go to a party, the food never gets to me? You don't say it normally. You say the first time you say it is just information. So it's just stored somewhere in your hippocampus. It's just there. But then
Mm-hmm.
the next time you say it, there's emotion added to it. And then the brain begins to say, wait, oh, this guy has said this thing 5 times. It's repeating itself. I think it's important to him. And then he takes it and makes a strong standpoint with it. And so even before you start to think about it, it goes ahead of you and gives you anxiety. So you're already anxious when you're going for a party, for example, that they
Mm-hmm.
will not give you food when you get to that party because
Yes.
your brain has gone ahead of you. And you are wondering, but you have not gone to the party now. Why are you thinking about it? No, your brain learns. It learns from you. It doesn't wait for
Hmm.
you because its job is to keep you alive. That's how neurologically it works. So if you don't give your brain the right information, you will end up staying
Yeah.
on this path of, and your brain can take over from you. That's where the I don't know if you've seen these videos where people jump on top of a tree when they are scared. You've seen those videos where
Yes.
they
Yes.
forget
Yes.
they someone
Yes.
tattles them, and you start asking yourself, how is a human being able to jump that high? Someone who is not
Yes.
athletic, who has no,
Mm-hmm.
that's because at that point, the brain shuts down everything you are thinking. There's no thought, there is no
Wow.
skill you don't have. And it ignites you with certain adrenaline that regards because it needs to stay alive. So now coming down from the tree is a problem because you are now back to your senses. Cortisol levels have dropped. That's your stress levels. It has dropped. Now you can't come down from the tree because you don't even know how you got there in the first place. You were not aware. Your brain did all of that for you. So that's how strong
I
neurologically it happens.
I want to talk about cortisol, right?
Yeah.
Because we hear about it, but people don't. A lot of people don't. A lot of us don't understand what it means to have. A lot of people are living with elevated levels of cortisol, right? That are not normal
Mm,
because it's supposed to come in, and like you said, it's fight or flight. It will pop in. The brain wants to keep you safe, so it's gonna release it. Or you need to run. You need to fight. You need to,
yeah.
you need to protect yourself. But then when you're in the state of high
Yeah.
functioning depression, the cortisol is constantly elevated and is doing serious damage
Mm,
to your body. Can you talk maybe a
yeah.
little bit about what that does exactly, the effect?
So when you're stressed, um, the chemical, the cortisol is heightened, and
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that your brain cannot really function under so much stress. However, your brain can endure stress. So I
Okay.
want you to
Okay.
imagine the engine of a car. Now that
Mm,
engine has a limit. Yeah, there's something it can do. It has a limit to what it
mm,
can do. Okay, let's use an off-road car, for example. I love off-road cars, so
mm,
I'll use as an example. So you're using an off-road car, and then that particular vehicle has what it can take. Let's say it can climb a certain hill, and that's what it can
mm,
do. But you decide to take this vehicle and climb something bigger than what the engine is built for, right? So some cars have something, I can't remember what it is. My husband was explaining to me, where when you're in a high terrain, a terrain that isn't
mm,
the car isn't used to, you can turn off certain parts of the, you have to turn off certain parts of the car so that the car
Mhm.
can go through that particular thing. So it is
Yes.
overheating and all of those things. But so that the car doesn't stop, you need to turn off every other thing. That's what your brain
Got
does
you.
when it comes to stress. So you need to
Ah.
survive. It needs you to go through the next day. It needs you to, so
Yes.
it doesn't allow you have all those emotional breakdown. You can't have the emotional breakdown.
Okay.
It will go back into where the memories are, pull out the memories of
Mhm.
why you need to keep going, even though you are
Okay.
tired.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it just keeps reinforcing, it keeps reinforcing it, it keeps
Mhm.
reinforcing it. Why? Just so that you can stay alive. Best it can do for you is you pick up your phone, for example. So you find out that people are
Mhm.
excessively addicted to their phones, to social media. They
Doom
are
scrolling.
scrolling, or they
Mhm.
have to watch a
Mhm.
movie, or they have to play games.
Mhm.
Those are little
Mhm.
breaks that your brain allows you to take so that it can refresh a little bit and keep going, even though it's stressed.
Mm.
And the
It's like
moment
that
you
circuit
allow
breaker when
yourself to
there's that
take that,
surge.
yeah,
Yes.
yes, exactly.
That
It's
surge
just
of
too
energy
small.
breaks it so that I don't stop stuff. Ah,
Exactly,
that's incredible.
exactly.
That's
So you
interesting.
don't
Okay.
even know that that's
So,
what's happening.
mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. You just think you're just living life. Okay. Let's narrow this
Yes, you just
into
think you're
lived
okay.
ex. Yeah. Okay. So I want to take this further into lived expression. When you look at women specifically, the presentation often looks
Yeah.
different from what people expect depression to look like. Um, how does high functioning depression show up in women? And what roles do things like responsibility, caregiving, emotional labor play in masking what is really
Mm.
going on?
Ah, women matter. They'll say we have come again now. If there are men on this call,
Their
but
own is
we
coming
have
too.
no
Their
choice. We
turn is
have to
coming.
say yes, yeah. We have to say it. See, for women, women have a massive. I see. I like to describe women as a bridge, a big bridge. Bridges always have breakers. They have those
Sorry, can
expandable
you repeat
breakers so
what you
that
said?
when
It
the
broke for a
cars,
bit. You said women have a massive.
okay, women have a massive capacity to handle lots of things. There's something that I don't know how God built it in, but if you look at a bridge, I call women are like bridges.
Okay.
So you see those very big, massive bridges. If you notice, when you go on them, it feels like the bridge goes down and up. Have you ever noticed it when you're driving? There are some bridges you're driving on. It feels like you hear "pugu." It's like the bridge goes down and comes up. It's like a spring.
Mm-hmm.
There's something they
Mm-hmm.
put at different points of the bridge. They are like they are
Yes.
expandable. I've forgotten what the
Expanders. Yes.
science is, but yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
they allow it so that the concrete doesn't take in a lot of stress and start to crack in itself. So they leave those
Yes.
tiny holes at different points of the bridge. That's
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
women are. So women have all those, we can do a lot, we can do a lot, we can do this, we can do that. But a lot of times, because of the kind of society we're in, women are expected to do a lot and not say anything.
Yes.
So the same expectations they have of men, they have the same for women.
The
And
female
so
one.
as a
Mm-hmm.
woman, it's yes, there's a tendency for you to feel like you owe your family a certain especially for those that are married or have children. You have to show up a certain way. You have to look good but not look too good. You have to smile but don't smile too much. You have to
Wow.
look very nice even after having a baby, but don't overdo it. You have to take care of the baby, but you have to rest, but then don't rest too much because you have other children. And also, I'm going to talk about myself. So you have to I have to wake up, get the kids ready for school, but then
Mm-hmm.
I also have to rest when they say sleep when the baby is sleeping. That thing is not true. You can't do that. It's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
How can I sleep when the baby is
Mm-hmm.
sleeping when that I have other things to do when the baby is sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's so much expectation on the woman because she's multifaceted, because she is
Yes. Yes.
what's that popular word we use? She's diverse. She can do a lot of things
Mm.
at the same time. It is easier
That's
for a
so true.
woman to get lost in high functioning depression and not even know it. Why? Because you have motivation, and that
Mm.
motivation is your children, your family
Yes.
members. Somebody is depending on you, so you can't break down, you can't stay down. You show up, you show up, you show up. I have to show up.
Wow.
Your mother tells you I did it for you, so you remember and say I cannot let my family down. And then,
Yes.
I have to show up for my husband. Now you're struggling to keep husband, you're struggling to keep children, you're
In-laws.
struggling to, and you're telling yourself, I'm a strong woman. In-laws, thank you very much. So I did not mention it because I have a fantastic in-law. So I didn't think to mention that. So you find out that you have a lot of all the stresses happening in your
Mm.
life. So you are going on. So if you ever find yourself just simply, that word they call you strong woman. There was a
Mm-hmm.
time I used to be called that. I'm still called that, but I've stopped. I told them, don't call me strong. I'm not strong. I like to go down. Let me rest. Because when
Yeah.
someone tells you you are strong, what they are doing is they are pouring fuel on a car that wants to
Yeah.
rest.
Absolutely.
So these are some of the things that women are not, they're not allowed to express themselves. You're not allowed to sit down in a day and someone walks into your house and your house is dirty. You're not allowed to have that.
Mm.
Why is your house
Hmm.
dirty? Why is your
Mm-hmm.
toilet dirty? You're a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Woman no dey this house. Why food no go dey? That woman they live for. So many of these expressions that we think are natural, but women are going through it every day. You're changing your
Yeah.
hair color. You're saying you're changing it because of a man. But the actual truth is that you're trying to make yourself feel relevant and feel seen.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
struggle to do that is what keeps you on high functioning depression. So as women,
Wow.
we go through high functioning depression on every level. But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing women can do, which is the
Mm.
solution to high functioning depression, is shut
What's
down.
that? Mm.
Shut down.
Mm.
Women can
Mm.
shut down. They find it difficult to after learning how to shut down, and it's a beautiful experience, I must tell you. We
Mm-hmm.
can't shut down as per I mean shut down. Let it go. Refuse to sweep the house if it's for 2 days. Refuse to
Mm.
do that laundry and just rest because you can't.
Yeah.
Eat out for the next 2 or 3 days because you just can't bear the
Yeah.
sight of that kitchen. Get someone to
Absolutely.
do the dishes for you. Go to a wedding and sit your bum bum down. Don't assist. It's not by force. Enjoy
Mm.
the event. Take yourself
Mm.
out to a spa. Turn off your phone and have somebody take care of the kids and don't call anybody to ask if they are okay. Go on a
Mm.
vacation. Leave the work. You can't show. It's difficult because as I'm
Yeah.
saying it, it's sounding very funny. Like it's very
Yeah.
unrealistic. So who will take care of my
Yeah.
children? But guess what? The, the day you will break down, and then God forbid anybody breaks down, and then they pass on to glory. It only takes
Oh,
3 months for the closest person to you to mourn,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and
People move on.
you are going to become a memory.
Wow.
You become a memory, and then life
Wow.
continues. You see that thing you thought couldn't be done, it'll be done.
Wow.
You see that
Yeah.
job you thought you couldn't, nobody could do without you. I'm the one
Yeah.
that can handle it. Is my job. Someone is
Yeah.
going to do it, and
Yeah.
they'll probably do it better
Yeah.
than you did.
Yeah.
So
That is
take a
so
break.
true. No one is so important that if they are not there, everything will scatter. In the sense of
Yes,
life,
so
the thing about life is like to keep moving on. People will figure themselves out. There's a
yeah.
story I once read on this the diary of a Niger girl. There was a lady talking
Mm,
about her friend. Her friend slaved for her family, slaved for her husband, slaved for her kids, slaved for her in-laws. She basically worked herself to death.
mm.
When she died, fast forward a month or two, her friend sees the husband, he's playing tennis, the kids are there, and she's like, how are you cooking? He's like, oh, I hired a maid, I hired a chef, I had someone to care for my mom, I hired. So the fact was, all of
Oh
that could
wow.
have been done, yes. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, she took it upon herself to do all those things and worked herself to death. So you're right about the need to shut down. The
Mm-hmm.
world will not the
Mm-hmm.
world will not implode because you didn't wash the plates for a day or two or didn't clean. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? And the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lady, a mentor. She said to me, she said, Ruby, women have to take care of themselves. If not, they will not have anything to give to others. And it's as I grew older, I understood what she
Absolutely.
was saying, that you can't pour from an empty cup, or you have to fill it up, and it's the overflow that you give that flows out to everybody else. So it's not a selfish thing in that sense to pour into yourself. It's not a
Yeah.
selfish thing in that sense to invest into yourself, to really practice self-care. It's very, very important because
Mm.
it's important for you and it's important for the people around you because you're now your best self and you're able to show up with full energy and full presence, and all of that. Before we move on to the men, I want to ask a
Yeah.
question. Are there health
Yeah.
issues that result? Hmm, okay. Are there health issues that happen a consequence of
Yeah.
women function, right?
Oh yes.
Examples would you say?
Yes. Yes, so I was speaking to a client recently, and one of the things we're talking about is that she's dealing with PCOS. I mean, they now call it PMOS now. I think that's
Oh,
the new name. And but she's not married yet, but she knows that
okay.
she's dealing with that. And then
Mm,
so we're like, okay, oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And so while we were doing a lot of diagnosis and talking, and then I noticed the progression. I had to
mhm,
share with her. I said, you know that there's a very, very high chance. I'm not saying that this mental health concern is what caused it, but there's very high chance that because your emotions are unstable and you're dealing with a lot of anxiety,